Greetings everyone, and this is my second video about, well, saying goodbye to Borderlands 2 and mainly remembering the problems that it presented us during its lifetime. Stuff that I wish I will never see in any future game, whether it be Borderlands or not, because it's all stuff that is not fun to experience. And you caught me here actually in normal mode, because I am here to do something that I would never otherwise do if it were up to me. This is something that is completely outside the normal repertoire of how I do things, and that is because I am here to farm challenges. Yes, these things that were kind of like misguided in the way they were implemented. Challenges in Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel are these tasks that you are supposed to complete on your own spontaneously while you're playing the game, without ever paying much attention to them, like specifically. You could pay a little more attention to them when you're trying to farm for the ones that you haven't gotten, like I'm doing here, but those are generally going to be the super annoying challenges that would never complete spontaneously on their own. Wait. The idea behind these was that in Borderlands 1 we also had a system called weapon proficiency, and the goal of these challenges in the end is to get tokens, which you see right there on the top left. Of course, Borderlands players know what I'm talking about. Maybe I shouldn't explain this as much. But in the end, you get these stats, which are bonus stats listed below, usually known as badass rank or bar. Generally, people you'd find have these disabled, like this. And the reason is, on top of them being, again, super annoying to gather these challenges, some of them are actually pretty okay because they get completed completely on their own, like just simply kill enemies with submachine guns and whatnot, and that sort of stuff you don't really have to pay attention to. You just play the game normally and you keep getting rewards. The problem is, when you first turn the game on and you're unaware of what's going to come in the future, on top of these challenges being super annoying, and you might make the mistake of thinking that they are much more valuable or much more important than they actually really are, you might end up spending your badass ranks or these tokens in the wrong places. As you can see, the top 4 stats I have, maximum health, shield capacity, recharge delay, and recharge rate, are all only 1%. I could have gone even further and not spend a single token on them, but I just wanted to get them out of the way and just get them listed on the board. But the reason I don't invest much into them is something that's going to tie into the topic that I'm going to discuss in the next video, which is Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. And even beyond that, even if you don't want to go Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, these top 4 stats actually end up hurting you if you spend points in them. Now, shield capacity, recharge delay, and recharge rate are all fantastic if you're using any shield that's not actually roid. I don't have anyone on me, but roid shields are all about being depleted all the time. And if you have a roid shield that's super amped up with high recharge delay and recharge rate, or actually I should say low recharge delay and high recharge rate, then you're not going to get much out of your melee playstyle. There could be other examples of shields that like to be depleted, but for example, I think the Flame of the Firehawk would pretty much benefit from having a high recharge delay, so you don't really need to invest high points into recharge delay, otherwise you'd end up hurting yourself. Even if it is 10%, you'd rather not have it. So these challenges are a super bad implementation, and that is why many people agree that the weapon proficiency system that was introduced in Borderlands 1 was a much superior system. All you had to do to get higher proficiency in that case was to kill enemies with a certain weapon type, and the more enemies you kill with that certain weapon type, the better it gets. And the boosts you get were specifically tailored to that weapon class. For example, I believe you got better, maybe better fire rate with sniper rifles. Maybe you didn't have much increase in accuracy. Other weapons got accuracy. So the changes were again specific to each and every weapon type, and they did not affect your playstyle. It only made you better at what you were already doing, and that was a much better system. But it was kind of dull, like simply having to kill enemies without any like special requirement was kind of dull, and it had a cap. There was a point after which you could not get any more out of your character or out of a specific weapon. So in Borderlands 2 they introduced these challenges where you can, as you can see, I have the possibility of resetting here, which I'm not going to do now, and I'm going to explain why in a moment. So you can keep earning these non-stop. You just keep resetting and doing these over and over and earning more bonus stats for your character. And anything apart from those top 4, and it's very good that there are only 4, because each time you get a token you get to choose between 5, and the token always allows me to choose these top 4 options because they are the lowest boosted stats I have. So I always pick the 5th. And so in theory this was a much superior system to weapon proficiency, because it boosts not only stuff that is weapon specific like fire rate, recoil reduction, reload speed, elemental effect chance. It can also, in theory, like you see, you can boost melee damage, you can boost grenade damage. Grenades didn't have proficiency in Borderlands 1. You can boost stuff specific to your shield, even though I already explained why you probably shouldn't do that. And so in theory this system was way superior. Problem is, first of all, like I said, if you're new to Borderlands, you can mess your bar up, and that is why most people were stuck playing with bar off for the most part, even if they did not care about leaderboards and raid boss kills and whatever. So you were missing out completely on the bonuses and benefits. And the challenges themselves were very tedious and low reward overall. As you can see, I pretty much have the vast majority of them completed here. The vast majority. I actually have all the area-specific challenges completed. And that was no fun task. In theory, again, these area-specific challenges kind of wanted to maximize the potential or the amount of fun and content you'd get out of every certain area. If you come here, for example, to the Tundra Express, you do get a lot of side quests besides your main reason of being here when you're in the story. But those side quests are actually not enough to like get you to explore the entire map and go everywhere. So these challenges, area-specific ones specifically, were kind of designed to let you get more out of the map, to give you more reason to keep exploring. But if you searched on your own, there was a very low chance that you would end up finding all the vault symbols, finding, you'd maybe, for example, in the case of Tundra Express, find all the bombs of Tiny Tina and manage to turn them off. But a lot of these challenges, like if you mess one part up, you have to quit and continue. I did quit and continue here, but for completely different reasons. They were not fun. They were super tedious, super difficult. In fact, the pre-sequel, and I'm going to dedicate a separate video to the pre-sequel, did this way worse. You had area-specific challenges that were super easy to miss. You'll have a few examples of this in Borderlands 2, but it was much prevalent in the pre-sequel. And the reason you find me here doing this very weird thing of trying to get kills with my Nerf fleet from far away is because on top of that, there were challenges that were locked. You have to complete ones completely, like go all the way to the 5 out of 5 in order to get the challenge to even unlock. And in this case, here in the rocket launcher category, I have this one. And I'm not sure, maybe it's Splish Splash that unlocks it. We're going to find out in a minute. Maybe it's Skyrockets in Flight, which is super annoying, a very, very, very bad challenge. And amongst these challenges, because I've already done them so many times, and I've played the game on numerous platforms, I played it on PlayStation 3, I played it on PC, and now I'm playing it on PlayStation 4. The ones that are like the biggest offenders, these don't count. I'm going to say why. Like you don't really need to do these. But the biggest offenders are, for example, stuff like where is Captain Scarlet? For example, Master Warm Food. Master Warm Food requires you to kill Master Gi the Invincible, which is a raid boss. On top of being super annoying, as you can see, I've killed Hyperius way more than I have killed Master Gi, because the Master Gi fight is super tedious. It takes a very, very long time. It's cool in concept, but you can't complete it quickly unless you use an exploit and crush him with a gate, which you can't get super consistently each and every time. So the problem with Master Gi is, on top of the fight being super annoying, the final bullet, the final like tick of damage that kills him has to come from your gun and not the damage over time that he takes from the mandatory acid pools that you make him absorb in order to kill him. So you could actually kill him, get his loot, but the challenge would not progress. So that was super annoying, and it will take you a very, very long time if you actually want to complete this 5 out of 5. Maybe with a reset system you wouldn't really care about that, but if you do, oh boy, it's going to take you a very long time and it's not going to be pleasant. Shady Dealings is not very bad. Collect Seraph Crystals is not very bad. You had stuff that I also have a challenge glitched on me, which is this one. This used to be 5 out of 5, but now I'm completely shocked to find that it's glitched. As you can see, I am way more than 5,000, but for some reason the challenge is just bugged and it's showing itself as not completed. Other offenders include Blue Sparks. You would never power slide if you're just playing normally. You only do this if you want to do it for the challenge. Passive aggressive. You have to be riding in the Bandit Technical, and not as a gunner, you have to be riding in the back. So if you're solo, you could never get this, unless you like drive your car, stop, hop out with enemies surrounding you, go to the back, and then shoot them. This on back shocked is very, very difficult to get unless you're playing Gauge. There are a lot of co-op specific challenges, and I'm going to say why that matters in a minute. You have these, like I said, Skyrockets in Flight. The final tier 5 is 2,000 kills, which is way too much. Sniper rifles, nothing very, very specific. Oh, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Assault Rifle. This one. You have to kill enemies with assault rifles while crouched. Getting 3,200 kills is way too much to ask. They really missed the number with this one. These would have been very cool if the numbers were like better calculated. Like you see, kill enemies with assault rifles is simply 2,000, so why is it that the crouching one is even more than that? So this, I believe, should have been like 1,000 at most. Then it would have been like a good experience. SMGs actually don't have anything super annoying. Shotgun have this shotgun sniper locked because it requires you to complete open wide first, but that's not a very big deal because that's the way you use shotguns to begin with. You use shotguns from close range, and sometimes people just become point blank on their own. Pistols, you have this quick draw, which requires you to do something along the side of having an enemy in your sights and then doing this. So immediately getting a kill after you enter aim down sights. So that was no fun. Let's see if that unlocked the one I've been... Oh, it did. It did. Good. Now it's all down to Leroy Jenkins and whether or not this bug challenge is actually going to count. So further down the line, we had other examples like I said, this quick draw was not fun. Melee was okay. Boomerang okay. So, and Leroy Jenkins, of course. I've already completed the game way too many times. And I've never had Leroy Jenkins pop up on his own unless you were farming doctor's orders for loot midgets. So, in conclusion, this challenge thing was way missing the mark. Area-specific challenges were not rewarding enough, and they were the most tedious and time-consuming to do. They should have had much more reward. They give you very few points to progress in the tokens, and so they were really badly designed, and a lot of them were actually missable, especially in the pre-sequel. Way too many to be okay. You had bug challenges, you had challenges that were locked in order, you had to complete a few other challenges to the fullest before you could actually even unlock the challenge that you wanted to complete. And finally, you could mess up your bar and not actually be able to use it if you have a specific playstyle. The final nail in the coffin is that there's actually a trophy, if you care about that sort of thing, in Borderlands 2, which requires you to complete at least the level 1 of all non-area specific challenges on the same character in order to unlock it. So these don't count, these are all DLCs. So starting from here, I have everything now except that bugged slag licked, which I hope is not going to stay that way, and Leroy Jenkins. So this stuff actually matters more than most people make it out to be. Most people like to present this argument that challenges don't matter at all. Actually, they kind of do. Like the bonus stats, when we're going to talk about Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, you need all the help you can get, and bonus stats can be a huge help. So unless you've played Borderlands for many years, and you have very good experience with it on how to get these challenges, how not to mess up your bar, what challenges are worth it, how to get to the point where you can reset your challenge progress, when to actually reset. For example, if I reset right now, I'd be shooting myself in the foot because the SMG challenges are very close to completion, and I could get a good amount of tokens out of just simply completing them. So gladly, as far as I can tell, people are saying that the challenge system and the badass rank stuff is not back in Borderlands 3. We have something much closer to the proficiency we had in Borderlands 1, and I'm super stoked about that. So that was no fun playing Borderlands, and I would not be sad to see it go. So with that, I'm going to transition over to my next one. So just two more points that I want to make about challenges is that one other reason to care about them is that some of them actually reward you skins when you complete them, and so that is a bit more of a reason to care about them if you actually want to get all the skins for your character. And the issue where you have to actually customize your bonus stats in order not to hurt your overall playstyle by not investing too much into maximum health no matter what your playstyle is, and not investing into shield, recharge delay, and recharge rate if you're playing a melee character or planning on using something along the lines of Flame of the Firehawk, is just another example of what I said in my previous video, that RPG games don't work by themselves. You have to make the game work. You have to make sure not to allow the game to bug out on you and like I said, shoot you in the foot. You have to stay mindful of what you're doing, because if you just follow what the game is constantly presenting you, you may easily fall into such situations where you could do something that's supposed to be helpful to you in the minds of developers, Like, they clearly thought that having more max health and better shield stats would be good for you, but they completely forgot that there are melee shields in the game, and that something along the lines of health gate exists, which is something I'm going to elaborate on in my next video. And here we have another example of these pumpkins that you had to shoot here in Flamerock Refuge in order to get some badass rank. But I digress. The reason I am here now in Flamerock Refuge, not because I want to contemplate the amazing music and scenery and kind of like Game of Thrones / Dungeons and Dragons and whatever it is that this DLC was themed after. It's because I want to talk about something that I believe nobody when it comes to Borderlands liked. And it is Murderland's Temple. Murderland's Temple is just the crown jewel of the ever so annoying thing that Borderlands keeps thinking is cool, which is Circles of Slaughter. Murderland's Temple and his magic slaughter is a prime example of how annoying Circle of Slaughters are, because his, on top of being just a boring arena where the game just spawns enemies at you and you just simply have to kill them, this area is filled with trapdoors that you can fall down and get killed in an instant. You can fall off the sides because something blew up next to you or some enemy melee pushed you out of the way. You could die in a billion ways, and it's such a small and really badly designed area. You have these spears come from the ground to slow you down. It was awful. Awful. Very, very, very bad and super not fun. And it's not like Murderland's Temple is the only example of this. It is certainly the most annoying, with probably the least reward. The only thing you get out of this is the very, very, very last stage, which is the badass round, which is actually the 6th round. You get this enemy that when you allow him to level up enough, he'd give you this gun, which everybody knows, which is the Ogre. Of course, this is nothing compared to the Borderlands 1 Ogre, but it's still a good gun, even though it's ever so slightly better than a purple rarity Torg assault rifle with very similar stats. So this is again an example of how Borderlands sometimes was much more of a chore to play than fun. And this also applies to many, many other RPGs out there, where they kind of don't understand what's fun about them. They think that this thing is part of their like identity, but it's actually not. It's like the worst thing. The main thing to me about Borderlands is, like I said, the atmosphere, the way you get to experience shooters in a very, very new light. Like, when did you ever expect yourself to go around in a shooter and playing some sort of like melee character that's all about healing himself in between the bursts of damage that they deal? When did you expect yourself to have something along the lines of the Pimpernel, where you shoot a pellet that rises up and then explodes into 5 other new pellets, and you have to kind of like build your strategy and skill points around that, where you don't like invest into stuff like velocity and you adjust your aim accordingly? People talk about how, for example, like Dead Space was a very, very interesting game to play because you had to adjust your aim in different ways besides simply aiming for the head like Resident Evil and all similar kind of like survival action games wanted you to do. And so that aiming for limbs and cutting them off was a very refreshing thing to do compared to constantly aiming for the head. Borderlands has a lot of these examples. Hyperion guns with a reverse recoil, where actually your first shot is the least accurate and you get more accurate as a shoot. You have guns where you better be reloading early, especially if you're playing Zero, for example, in order to get this bonus, which is one shot, one kill, which I'm not spec'd into at the moment. Sometimes you want your shield to be empty to get fearless, and to get, of course, Zero's awesome melee skills if you're wearing a melee shield. Sometimes you want your shield to be full, and so this creates a whole lot of like synergy, and this is what Borderlands is about. This is what's fun. It's trying out the weird and wonky and like unique way that Borderlands gives you of playing first-person shooter games, and that hybrid between that and RPG. But I believe everybody knows that, and again, I'm not here to like keep concentrating on those things, because others have talked about them, and Borderlands doesn't need more praise. It's already a legendary, like classic game as is. So they seem to think that you like these circles of slaughter. They gave us 3 in the main game. They gave us this stupid magic slaughter and what most people consider the best DLC the game ever got. And what I am, with the case that I'm willing to make is this place, the Radon Digistruct Peak, to me is the most bad example of a circle of slaughter. A lot of people love this area. I certainly don't. All the time I spend here was very tedious, and I never enjoyed it. The music is horrible. I might as well go ahead and accept the mission, even though it's going to be level 35, because I was here in normal mode to show you what I was doing with the challenge. But enemies spawn slowly. The music is awful. Some people liked it. I don't know why. It's repetitive. You go through the exact same thing over and over. If you die, you have to start from the beginning. It's very, very, very bad. It's actually deceptive. After playing the peak for ages, I discovered that some people said that there's actually no reason to use fire weapons here, because no enemies here are actually weak to fire, despite the fact that they have red life bars. So this Radon Digistruct Peak was to me at least with Borderlands Temple, you didn't have to complete it at all. If you weren't actually aching for an ogre, and you had nobody to like give it to you, or if you weren't willing to go down the route of save editing, which is again something that I'm going to address in my third video actually, you didn't have to go to Borderlands Temple at all. If you didn't care about it, if you didn't care about trophies, if you didn't care about any of that, there was no reason for you to be in Borderlands Temple. It was just an awful thing that you were better off not experiencing. But you had to come to Digistruct Peak. Look how slowly these enemies spawn. And you have to stay here, listening to the awful music, doing this area once, twice, thrice, each time, and this is going to be much better talked about in my third video. You have to complete it, and if you got an overpowered level, all your gear is obsolete, and you have to go farm it again. This was just a horrible, 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 horrible place to be. It took absolutely no effort from Gearbox to make this. It was a quick cash grab. They dangled like a carrot in front of everyone's face, and they brought us here to this horrible area, Digistruct Peak, where, again, to me, it is just the worst possible circle of slaughter out there. So, while I was editing the video, I realized that if I keep it as is, it would be more than an hour long, which I really don't like, so I'm going to split it into 2 parts. So, while I was referring before to my third video is now going to become the 4th. And I believe it's going to be better that way. I don't like long videos myself, and half an hour is kind of like the most I'm willing to digest. So the next video is going to be the second part of what originally was intended to be this one, and the third video is going to be pushed to the 4th. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and till next time.